Just a few quick things before it starts. One, I did not start writing a script for this until the 4th mission, so narration might be a little weird for the first 3. 2, my mic quality is going to be changing a lot. It's not just like the mic quality, but like my voice in general. It can go from like super energetic to like really like tired in like seconds. I'm planning on doing like a whole massive video with every single mission in the game once I finish the series, and I'm gonna re-record a lot of the parts that I find that I was too like not very good in. But for now, here's chapter 3. Enjoy. I present to you the first mission of chapter 2, The New South. Chapter 3, fuck. Okay, so there's not much to say about the beginning of this mission. It's mainly just, Dutch saying how nice it is outside and how we should all go fishing, which, we do. Dutch tells Jose and I to keep a low profile, especially after that big shootout in Valentine recently. He also tells us to stay out of trouble in the local town nearby called Rhodes, so we aren't allowed to use weapons within the town. We aren't allowed to cause trouble at all. Like, the game physically will not let us at all, until like later. We then stumble across 2 lawmen transporting prisoners to jail, but one of the prisoners seems oddly familiar.
Hello, gentlemen. Well, look what the cat drug in.
Well, look who it is.
It's Josiah Trelawney, one of the most underrated characters in the entire game. Trelawney's with the gang, so Dutch tries to be friendly with the lawman, hoping to cut a deal. We here get introduced to Sheriff Gray, which is a part of a family that's... that comes later. While Dutch is talking Sheriff Gray's ear off, a few of the prisoners are trying to pick the lock to escape while the lawmen are distracted. And Arthur doesn't seem to care too much. Also, if anyone's curious, the reason why Trelawney is in there is because he was accused of running an investment scam or some shit. Oh shit, they're loose. 4 of the prisoners that apparently in the same gang called the Anderson boys jump on the moving train, and he's not fast enough to catch him. And they don't have horses, and they can't shoot them because they need them alive. So I take Officer Archibald and we go follow the train. That's actually his name, by the way. I'm not kidding.
Come on, hurry! All right, come on, we're losing them. Will you relax? We're not losing them.
He asks Arthur Morgan what his name is, and Arthur says a half lie. The reason why is because Arthur got into some trouble with lawmen at a town called Valentine, and he's a lawman. He's not taking any chances. Anyway, it's gonna be really tough taking down all 4 of those guys without killing them.
Ooh, that must have hurt.
Alright, 3 more to go. I let Archibald ride my horse while I jump on the train to stop this guy from throwing fucking bottles at me. After politely tossing him off the train, it's time to get the remaining 2. I start chasing him on top of the train, but one of them was already waiting for me, so we get into a huge fight. Not that huge, it actually lasted about like 3 seconds. I chase down the remaining Anderson boy in a meat whatever, and then he pulls out a knife, so... I don't know what to say when like these fights are happening. I don't know. How's the weather? Okay, whatever. I actually knock him out, but then I end up kicking him too hard and I failed. I don't even know what happened here.
Sounded like quite a commotion. Is that him? I sincerely hope so.
Imagine going through all that trouble and it's the wrong fucking guy. Archibald kindly gives me the breakdown on the whole area while I have a knocked out criminal on my horse. I don't want to listen to his voice, so I'm just gonna tell you. This house here with all the tobacco fields, that's Caliga Hall. Yeah, it's pretty big for a house in the fucking 18 whatever. Yeah, Caliga Hall was a mansion that belongs to the family known as the Grays. You know? Sheriff Gray, familiar? I doxed his ass right now. He claims that the Greys are great people, which is easily disproven later in this chapter. The Greys also own half the businesses in town. In Rhodes. There's also another family called the Braithwaites, and you think living so close they'd get along? Nope, they fucking hate each other. But there is a Romeo and Juliet involved with like those 2 families, so that comes later. Pretty boring, but whatever. POV, Arthur's a doctor delivering a baby, and Dutch had high hopes for him.
I told you Arthur would deliver.
Sorry. They also let Trelawney, one of the most underrated characters in the entire game, go. In return for Arthur capturing those Anderson boys. The start of this chapter is very positive, and it gives a lot of high hopes for the gang. Maybe things are looking up for them, becoming friends with the sheriff, basically working for the law. Like, I feel like things are only just gonna get better.
Beau, These better be ugly rumors. Is it true you were seen talking to that wretched Penelope Braithwaite?
I told you, Juliet and fucking Romeo. This is why Trelawney is so underrated, dude. He's been in the back of like a prison transportation wagon, and he's given so much information on the family's feud, like the Greys and the Braithwaites, and a bunch of bounty hunters. Like Trelawney's incredible, dude. He's so underrated, which is pretty much everyone's opinion. So he's just a good character. They talk about how their fishing trip turned into something completely different than a fishing trip, but they still want to do the fishing trip, and I agree to the fishing trip, so we go over there and go fishing to the fishing trip. If you actually do go fishing, it's actually funny as fuck, and there's not that much for me to talk about, so I'm just gonna play some of the funny parts.
What happened there? Apart from scaring the living daylights out of Mr. Strauss.
That was about the only upside.
Jack told me you were a good teacher when you took him fishing. I said he must have you confused with someone else.
Damn, that hurt. Okay, here we go. You boys are too old for real labor no more.
You're too dumb for anything else. Something's nibbling. There we go. Shit, got away.
Remember that time we sent Arthur out fishing? He came back with 3 beautiful bass. Hosted him all night. Arthur and I are at the market, and Fishmonger calls out, "So how did you enjoy those bass?"
Look,
I used to go fishing with this feller back in the day. One day, we were river fishing when we see a funeral procession going over the bridge, and out of the blue, Wesley stands up, takes off his hat, bows his head. Then he sits down, picks his rod back up, and carries on. Doesn't say a word. So I'm a little surprised and say, "Wesley, that was nice of you." And he replies, "Well, felt I had to. After all, I was married to her for 30 years.
Oh, there he is. Did I ever tell you my mother's buried in Blackwater?
I couldn't wait till the taste was done. Threw her on the floor and I knocked off some. Taters got burned and so did I. That is a bully boy. Bravo! Bravo!
This mission's so funny. An amazing opener to the chapter. A tier 100%. Ladies, calm down. You're both beautiful, man. Sadie throws a reasonable tantrum about not wanting to be a housewife all the time, especially now when the fat guy is being a dick to her. She explains that before she was a widow, her and her husband did everything. There was no you do this or you do that. It was let's just do this all together. There was never any of that basic housewife like doing the dishes while the husband is out working or some shit. It was always like Sadie was hunting or the whatever. You understand. Arthur tells Sadie that she's more than welcome to hunt and kill with the men, but she'll have a more likely chance of dying. Sadie then informs Arthur that she's not afraid of dying and then she can do anything. She's like Captain Marvel or Wonder Woman in 1840. Sadie and Arthur headed to town to run some errands and deliver some mail for Pearson, when Sadie decides to read Pearson's mail.
Robbing and killing's okay, but letter reading's where we draw the line.
Yes.
Dear Aunt Kathy, before you ask, I am still yet to take a wife, but I can assure you it's not for a lack of suitors.
On my way to deliver the letter, I stop and pet a dog, but then get greeted with the best dialogue in the entire game.
Potatoes, carrots, onions, flour, oats, salt, eggs, apples if you got them.
Alright, Pearson, say bye to your letter. When did she even get those clothes? That was right there. Sadie then reopens the book in the back of her mind to tell us that her and her husband shared all of the work. All of it. A man in a stupid hat comes up to us for no fucking reason. Sadie pulls out her gun to get ready to shoot the guy in the stupid hat to get that stupid hat off his head and his head off of his body. She then shoots the guy, but apparently there was way more than just 2 of them. After Sadie runs over a motherfucker, we have to shoot out the entire rest of the gang. I mean, the rest of the entire gang. Fuck. Cut me some motherfucking slack, alright? I just woke up. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, the guy in the stupid hat claims that these people are called the Lemoyne Raiders, and it's a gang all around the state of Lemoyne. What is this, man? If GTA 6 doesn't have photo mode, I'm going to kill myself. We then return to camp, which comes a dialogue that can easily be taken out of context. Really, really easily.
I enjoyed myself out there.
Yes, Mrs. Adler did okay.
That shopping?
Yes, that's shopping.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Don't mention it. I would ride with you again, Mrs. Adler, if you will ride with me.
Maybe. If you prove you can handle yourself.
Where?
This mission is funny, and it introduces some really good character development, so I'm gonna give it a reasonable B tier. Low B tier. I walk in the sheriff's office to meet Dutch. American Distillation. Dutch and Bill clearly got Sheriff Gray drunk for no... Did I say gay? I meant Gray. I did a money landing. Arthur arrives at Sheriff Gray's office to realize that Dutch and Bill have gotten him drunk for some unknown reason. As Sheriff Gray stumbles out of his office and falls over, it becomes known that the reason Sheriff Gray was drunk so that Dutch could convince him to make them deputies.
So it turns out that Sheriff Gray might actually be a little fucking bitch. 'Cause honestly, in my opinion, the Grays kind of suck. Braithwaite's for life, am I right, guys? XD, no-scoped Doritos Mountain Dew.
Archibald and the gang are on the way to recover some moonshine from a gang called the Lemoyne Raiders, who we've met previously at a camp. But on the way, we discover a crash site that is obviously tied to the Lemoyne Raiders. Am I right, guys? Doritos? No. After they arrive, the gang decides to split up to be a little sneaky with it. After taking down a few guards, by take down, I mean tie them up and bring them back to the wagon with all the moonshine in it. We make a lot of noise with the use of dynamite, which eventually leads to a pretty decent shootout. There's really not that much to say about this mission except for the fact that me and my aim missed like fucking 20 shots on a dude that's standing pretty much completely fucking still. After looting literally all the bodies, I make my way back to the wagon. When Dutch points out the fact that Archibald is trying to keep an excessive amount of moonshine that doesn't even cover Diddy's amount of bottles of baby oil to himself. Dutch takes a couple bottles of moonshine and then leaves. On the way back, Dutch says to Arthur that he can use the amount of drama between the families and the lawmen to take advantage of, and Arthur responds by beating him in a race. And then Dutch drops this shit out of nowhere.
I was gonna say you're like a son to me, but you're more than that.
So you told Jose about the moonshine?
Yes.
Alright, it's time for the one that I've been putting off for a while, or at least trying to, because it's that bad. Of course, I'm talking about the you-know-which one. I start by going to Caliga Hall to find out more about the Gray family, when someone points me over to a man called Beau, who was actually at Sheriff Gray's office whining about his erectile dysfunction back in Mission 1. Anyway, Arthur goes up to him and he can barely get a sentence without Beau yapping about a girl he likes.
Don't worry, your secret's safe with me.
What secret?
I got a secret of my own.
Are you secretly normal?
Excuse me?
Never mind.
He claimed that they love each other, but it's difficult because they're a part of different families who hate each other. See? Juliet and fucking Romeo. Anyway, he gives Arthur the job of sneaking past armed guards and risking his life at Braithwaite Manor just so this girl can read a sheet of paper.
She's amazing. She's like a woman from the future. She's like tomorrow, if tomorrow turns out fine.
What?
He gives Arthur the letter and the gift, and off he goes, I guess. Fun fact, you can actually sell Beau's gift to Penelope to the fence. You'll lose a shit ton of honor, but you can do it if you hate this mission that much. Anyway, after making it past the guards, Penelope greets Arthur like he's not an outlaw serial killer and grabs the letter without saying thanks. Bitch. Do you know what he had to do so you could read that shit? She then gives another letter to him, which Arthur has to once again risk his life to deliver. What is this, 3rd grade? Arthur makes it back to Caliga Hall and tells Beau to pay up. After paying him, Beau asks if there's anything Penelope gave to him, to which Arthur responds with saying yes, for a price, which he quickly backs down on. Nick A30 would not be happy. Beau reads the letter like he's touching himself, but then reads it like someone's touching him. In panic, Beau bribes Arthur to go down to Rhodes and protect Penelope because apparently, stated in the letter, that she and other family members are going down to Rhodes to protest for women's rights to vote. After arriving, the lovebirds very subtly greet each other in front of a bunch of Braithwaites.
Do something, please.
Do what? Fight this mob?
We must begin.
They need me alive.
Somehow, Arthur gets into driving the coach or wagon or whatever through the roads through Rhodes for the protest. They stop outside the bank and start protesting when all of a sudden, Beau's cousins arrive, who give him shit about being there when they are also there. Arthur takes Beau, noticing the drama, and quickly leaves the scene. They ride away and stop at an old battlefield. Arthur tries to convince Beau to get Penelope and leave, to which Beau responds by saying that he's working on getting enough money to leave.
I have more of a
autistic temperament, so
Oh, is that what they call it?
yes.
Oh, you made a joke.
They talk for a second, and then Bo pays him and leaves. That was a lot of leaves in that single line. Okay, look, this mission is definitely not the worst in the game, but it's still not great. I think a D tier is fair. Sorry to the 3 people in the world that think this is an S tier.
Hey, Arthur. What are you doing?
Selling it back to where it came from.
Why?
Advertising, the new American art. Arthur greets Hosea outside camp, who tells him that they're going to sell the moonshine from which they took 2 missions ago. He says that they're going to sell it back to the Braithwaites, hoping to make a truce or a deal with them. On the way there, they talk about some boring adult stuff and stealing horses, and that's about it. Or at least it was until Arthur mentions the love triangle between Bo, Penelope, and Bo's cousin. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, if Bo doesn't leave with Penelope, then his family is forcing him to marry his cousin.
Unlike incest,
Excuse me?
I don't want to marry my cousin Matilda. I want to marry Penelope.
If he does marry his cousin, he'd be a great fit for the first Prime Minister of Canada. Anyway, Arthur brings up the fact that he's helping them in a very shameful voice, to which Hosea responds like this.
The mind boggles.
While approaching Braithwaite Manor, they got stopped by guards, but they see the wagon full of alcohol and immediately let them through. This is where we get introduced to Catherine Braithwaite, who is a horrible piece of shit like most villains in this game. I'm also going to be calling her Kathy moving forward, because that just seems more necessary. Anyway, after Hosea very politely offers to make a deal using the moonshine that is already Kathy's, her male strippers rise from their gaming rooms with weapons. Hosea calmly claims that they aren't robbing them, and then negotiates with Kathy, trying to sell the moonshine for half the price. Kathy shoots back at Hosea, claiming that it's already hers. But Hosea tells her to look at it as a reward for reclaiming the moonshine in the first place, which was originally stolen from the Lemoyne Raiders. After nearly shooting Hosea, Kathy folds and tells her bro bitch to pay them. They then get the money, but Hosea tries to lighten the mood by saying that they didn't take it in the first place. Kathy claims that they were ordered to reseal it by Sheriff Gray, then proceeds to say that she doesn't want the liquor anymore and tells him to go sell it for free at Rhodes' bar for an extra price. Hosea is a money slut, so he agrees. Then Kathy flirts with him, telling him to come back anytime to play cribbage.
Maybe we'll play a little cribbage.
On the way back to the bar, Hosea tells Arthur that he finally sold the Cornwall balls for $1,000. The balls from the train robbery in Chapter 1, or as I like to call it,
Bonds.
Hosea then reminds Arthur that Cornwall is spraying money on the Pinkertons for catching gangs like them. Fuck. He then points out that it could go wrong for Arthur at the bar, especially since Arthur and Dutch are quote-unquote working for Sheriff Gray. They come up with a disguise that Arthur's against because he has to go by the name of Fenton. They arrive at the bar, and Fenton and his idiot clown brother grab some moonshine and walk over to the bar.
Hello! Hello, I'm Melvin. Don't mind him. Don't madden him. He's turned idiot. Killed our mother, but it weren't his fault.
Hosea starts handing out money to random strangers, then proceeds to go walk into the bar. Hosea loudly introduces himself as Melvin again, claiming that everything in the bar is free for the next 30 minutes. He then makes the same joke about murdering their mother, which the bar is weirdly amused by.
Don't get him mad, though. His mama made him mad, and we buried her.
A montage plays of Fenton serving drinks and everyone getting drunk out of their cocks. Nighttime rolls and the entire bar became monkeys at a zoo. Everything goes smoothly until a dude with weapons barges in, who is clearly a part of the Lemoyne Raiders, judging by the terrible outfit. One of the raiders confronts Hosea about stealing the moonshine, to which Hosea responds by offering them a drink. Suddenly, the bar breaks out into a shootout between Hosea, Arthur, and the Lemoyne Raiders. I then get my favorite kill cam so far by saving Hosea's life.
She got us.
Unfortunately, my game glitched and it wouldn't let me climb over the gate, so I did what anyone else would do. We ride out of Rhodes, shooting some raiders on the way out. Then one of the raiders shoots the moonshine, which eventually causes a fire, and by eventually I mean instantly, but then instantly goes away, and by instantly I mean instantly. Once they're clear, Arthur asks if Kathy set them up. Hosea responds like a 7th grader asking someone else.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe.
And then drops Arthur off at camp and then goes to fuck Kathy. At camp, Dutch asks Arthur his opinions on the state, to which Arthur responds with sarcasm. Dutch starts talking about the different families and their values. He claims that the Greys are law, Scottish, and drunk, while the Braithwaites are just assholes. He and Micah then hit Arthur with a golden plan.
We try to rob them both.
Arthur points out the flaws to this, claiming that the law is after them in every state. Dutch retaliates, saying that they need money, which isn't exactly a mind-blowing statement. Then he says that it won't matter what the effect is, since the families are going to kill each other eventually. Dutch then gives Arthur the option of doing a job for the Braithwaites with Sean, or doing a job for the Greys with John. Dutch starts glazing his plan again and says something that is honestly kind of creepy while making it out as payback.
Think of it as payback for my daddy.
Payback. I ain't in the revenge business, Dutch. Least of all for something happened a long time ago.
Well, I guess we all gotta pay for something.
What a great mission. I especially love the dialogue at the end between Arthur and Dutch, talking about payback and revenge, which is a common subject brought up between them moving forward. I'm giving this mission a low S tier. An honest mistake. The mission begins with Arthur greeting Molly, which to be honest, should have just ended the mission there, because greeting Molly is most definitely an honest mistake, because Molly's annoying. So the mission already lives up to its name, but let's see what else there is. Molly starts yammering about Dutch and how she's worried about him, which isn't anything to worry about, I'm sure. She starts yapping more and more about loyalty, and oh thank God, Uncle to the rescue. Arthur claims he has information, which pisses off Arthur, who takes it as an errand for Uncle so he can just have a gooning session instead of doing any work. Uncle points out Arthur's bitterness, to which Arthur responds by saying go fuck yourself.
But you could go find some other fool to run your errands.
Bill, come on over here.
Arthur eventually agrees on the condition that Uncle comes along with him and the gang, to which Uncle responds that he has AIDS.
You are a compulsive liar.
No need to be like that. Charles, have I ever lied to you?
I hardly know you.
Exactly. Now you boys should do this.
Uncle tries his best to get out of the job when eventually Uncle tries his best to get out of the job when he eventually folds after Arthur backs out. Uncle tries his best to get out of the job. Uncle tries his best to get out of the job when he eventually folds after Arthur threatens to back out. Uncle describes the job as a briefly unguarded wagon Uncle describes the God fucking damn it. Uncle describes the job as a briefly unguarded wagon robbery. Uncle describes the job as a briefly unguarded wagon robbery. On the way, Uncle has the audacity to say that he's been doing all of the work while everyone is slacking off and playing a lawman. They arrive at the hill as everyone puts on their mask, waiting for the wagon to show up. They spot the wagon and quickly ride over to it, holding their guns up at the drivers. Everything seems to be going super smoothly when one of the drivers starts sucking his boss's dick.
I work for Cornwall Kerosene and Tar. Mr. Leviticus Cornwall.
Oh, great.
They take this news as every cautious man would. They brush it off and continue with the robbery. They nearly get $1,000 worth of money, but it's interrupted by the guards, who are a little behind. They start shooting and chasing the gang, but since they're so much better, they escape. Arthur barely escapes. They find a barn that they can briefly hide in, and Arthur says goodbye to his horse after giving it a spanking. Arthur makes Charles keep watch while the rest of the gang gets some rest, and we eventually get a super sick Arthur Morgan shot, which is interrupted by them trying to leave. Unfortunately, it's too late to leave, since some of the guards knock on the door of the home just outside the barn.
Maybe I heard some noises out by the barn a while ago. Ain't me.
They rat us out like a bunch of tattletales, and things take a deep, yet awesome turn.
Place looks empty to me. Now, the old guy up there is full of crap.
I don't think they're here. Don't see any horses.
Come on, let's head back. Boss! Place is empty! Shit!
This is one of my favorite gunfights in Chapter 3, mainly because the build up to it was pretty sick, and gunfights where you have to keep track of every direction makes it so much better. But it gets even cooler when the barn light's on fire, and everything is burning around them. They run out of the barn, but the guards are still on their tail. They dive into the woods, split up, and hide.
We need to do this quietly. You take the left and I'll take the right, okay?
Your right or my right?
The guards suddenly roam past them in search, when Arthur throws a knife at a guard who won't fucking leave. But then, Arthur gets pinned by one of the guards, and Arthur throws a knife at Uncle, but accidentally misses and hits the guard.
Made a meal out of that, didn't you?
This is a young man's game.
Uncle is the definition of back in my day. They then hear some banter by Charles and Bill, so they run over to help, and luckily, Arthur's knife throwing skills comes into play. After the guards fell asleep, Uncle tries his best to defend himself by saying they got some money, to which Arthur responds with the fact that Cornwall is a bigger problem now, and tells everyone to get the fuck out, ending the mission. Alright, this mission is amazing. It automatically takes a medal for the best shootout in the game so far. This mission to me has everything a fast-paced mission would have. It even has humor at times, which I think is pretty rare in missions super quick and intense like this one. I think this mission deserves an S tier. Horse flesh for dinner. That's interesting. Arthur meets John and Javier at Caliga Hall at the horse stable, where Mr. Gray, Sheriff Gray's father, is flirting with Javier. Mr. Gray starts shit-talking the Braithwaites, calling them degenerates and referring to Kathy as that bag, so this dude is already awesome, but let's see if he ruins it. He mentions that the Grays can't get too close to Braithwaite Manor, and then calls John a Yankee, and subtly bribes him to get too close to Braithwaite Manor. John says he's not a Yankee, he's Scottish. And then Mr. Gray said that he's Scottish. And then John said that he's Scottish. And Mr. Gray said that he's Scottish. And then John says, and the Braithwaites? And Mr. Gray says,
Goddamn peasants. I don't know. Mongrels. Slave fuckers.
The gang changes the topic to money. Mr. Gray says that Braithwaites possess prized horses worth $5,000 each, if they sell them at the horse fence. John shakes his hand and then he says that he's Scottish. On their way out, Mr. Gray reminds them to keep the Grays out of this robbery. John is still in shock of the prices of the horses they're about to steal, when Arthur points out that Mr. Gray was probably high on crack and didn't know what he was talking about. They decide to go through the back of Braithwaite Manor to avoid interrogation from the front guards, but there's still a guard at the back, who John convinces that there's a meeting with Kathy about the horses. The guard is skeptical at first, but John shows the guard a sneak peek of his OnlyFans and he lets them through. They hitch their horses on hitching posts and make their way into the stable.
Hello there.
Can I help you, boys?
I hope so. Heard you got some horses.
We always got horses.
Fine horses, I mean.
I don't get you, friend.
Yeah, you do. Come on.
Listen, why don't you get out of here? You, Scarface, and your greaser buddy.
Whoa! The stable hand seems like a nice fellow, but unfortunately he calls Javier a greaser, so he gets hit with a fucking hatchet and dies.
Well, this here's Cerberus. Here you go.
I'm so sorry, Cerberus, you do not have to see that. After Arthur calms down a very beautiful horse, he leads it outside and attaches it to a string or whatever it's called. They then get noticed by Braithwaites, which causes them to have to kill more people.
Watch out by that wagon.
They made it out, but one of the horses, Cerberus, broke out of the ropes. Arthur eventually calms Cerberus down, while the others are already at the horse fence. Arthur meets them there, and we meet Clay and Clyde, who say they'll pay anything for horses.
I'm Clay Davies. That's my brother Clive. We're twins.
John.
So what are you? Cuban?
No.
I don't like Cubans.
That's so?
Maybe. Why, what do you care? You ain't Cuban.
Maybe I like Cubans.
Ooh, you're funny. He's funny. Ain't he funny, Clive? Clive don't talk. We're twins, but I was born first. He came out all yellow and black, but he's okay.
I'm not sure how comfortable I am around these fellers. Clay takes a good look at the horses, knowing that they're from Braithwaite Manor, then proves once for all what the prices of the horses will be.
I'd give you $650 for them.
That is not $5,000. Clay claims that he only has $700 on him, and to take it or leave it. John takes it, which Arthur is not happy about. I personally don't feel like there's anything special about this mission. I'm gonna give it a low B tier.
Believed a yarn spun us by one of that Gray family, and imagined we was gonna be wonderfully rich. At the end of it, we felt like prize idiots. You get more pathetic by the day.
The fine joys of tobacco. As Arthur enters Braithwaite Manor, clearly feeling discomfort with how big the house is and all, the doorman leads him to the room with Hosea, Sean, and Kathy, and this dude for some reason. Kathy immediately insults Arthur's intelligence, probably just trying to hide the fact that she wants to have intercourse with him. Hosea debunks Kathy's insult, saying that he's not that dumb. Kathy briefly talks about Caliga Hall when Hosea brings up money. Kathy claims that they have money, which is clearly an understatement.
She ain't gonna pay you in a certified check, you Yankee numbskull.
Ain't childbirth just the most beautiful miracle? Seems a lady can birth monkeys, after all.
After Hosea's burn, Arthur and Sean ride over to Caliga Hall, while Sean talks about his experience from 5 minutes ago.
I'll shove that silver spoon down his throat and pull it clean out of his arse. The smug fucker. Okay.
Arthur is still confused about the job Kathy wants them to do, and Sean sums it up by saying that they're going to burn down their tobacco fields. Damn, this bitch don't fuck around. Mr. Gray was all like, I don't know, go steal some horses, I guess, and you'll make $5,000. They didn't make $5,000. They didn't even make $1,000. They couldn't buy the fucking PS5 Pro with that shit. Also, Mr. Gray, that was a lame-ass mission. It was a B tier. This time we get to burn drugs. Fuck this. I'm on Team Braithwaite. Kathy knows what's up. Sean then talks about the plan, saying they're making a delivery of moonshine, but the moonshine is used for burning shit down. Sean then stops Arthur from going any closer, since Arthur's a deputy for Sheriff Gray, and they know his face, so he hides in the back of the wagon. Sean, you're looking good today. Sean talks to the guard, saying he's from Ireland, which I know exactly where that is since I've been playing a lot of GeoGuessr. The guard likes Irish people, so he climbs aboard after Sean gives him some moonshine, and even gives Sean a handshake.
And you and I are nearly brothers.
I like this guy. I hope he doesn't get brutally murdered by another hatchet from Arthur Morgan. Man, they stay in the barn all day, working on the Molotov cocktails. They're ready to fuck shit up. Arthur comes up with a plan to coat the fields in moonshine, then throw the Molotov cocks at the fields, causing a chain reaction, which is a pretty basic plan. Sean kills a guy. He shouldn't have been there. Pouring moonshine on plants is so boring, so let's skip to Arthur throwing a knife at someone. Hooray! Arthur then pours moonshine all over the shed for some reason, and then finally blazes it up. Arthur throws fire bottles all over the moonshine, covered in tobacco fields. Wait. That wasn't right. Wait, I did not write... I meant... That was not... I did not mean to write it like that. Let me start over. Arthur throws the fire bottles all over the tobacco fields covered in moonshine. There we go. Guards start shooting at Arthur, but it's okay since Arthur has fire, he's basically a god. We're then taken to another incredible shootout in a massive place, but very limited visibility due to the smoke. I got some pretty cool kill cams, shot a lot of people, but suddenly, the horses left. I wonder why. It's not like there's a fire hazard or anything.
Where is
After the gunfight, they take some horses attached to the wagon and get out.
quite a night? Sure.
That's it? That's all I have to say. Then get this great cinematic shot of Arthur and Sean riding back to camp. Then a cut to Caliga Hall, nearly burned to the ground. Now this is a mission. To be honest, I don't have a lot to say about this mission. Just say I obviously really like it, and I'm giving it a low A tier.
Hey, you got any tobacco? I'm posting for the smoke.
Just kidding, S tier.
I'll never get drunk no more. I'm resolved to try.
Preaching forgiveness as he went. Let's go, baby. We got a Lenny mission. We love Lenny. Lenny tells Arthur that he quote-unquote got something as Arthur sharpens his knife. He informs Arthur that there's a gang who took over an abandoned house by the swamp area who apparently think the Civil War hasn't ended, and I hate to break it to y'all, but it's definitely over. Apparently, they're big-time weapon dealers, which means a shit ton of weapons and a shit ton of cash. Arthur wastes no time and immediately gets up, as Lenny says it's a location called Shady, Belle, which is the only time that this location has any involvement throughout the rest of the story. After staring at Lenny with binoculars and Hosea calling Arthur Fenton,
Hey, Fenton!
they ride out to Shady. The subject of alcohol comes up within the first 10 seconds of horse riding, which brings back some valuable memories between the two.
You've been drinking again?
No. Well, yes.
They then bring up Sadie, when Arthur mentions the time that the Lemoyne Raiders raided their shopping trip, so Sadie got shady and made some bloodstainy. The Lemoyne Raiders subject brings up regular civilians in the state and how they stand out from others, mainly talking about how much of an asshole they are. Lenny then says something that I'll have to blur from the subtitles, but basically, Lenny says that more people in the state would see less of Arthur since he's friends with a black person. Lemoyne? More like racist. They bring up the West, like Valentine and Horseshoe Overlook, and how nobody gives a shit what you are or who you're friends with. They're just decent people living life. Well, besides that one guy.
Don't know how many Redskins are killed, but they deserved it.
Arthur then apologizes to Lenny, telling him it can be easy getting caught up in a life like this, especially since he's a colored man, proving that Arthur is a legend of a character. I don't think there is one character like Arthur Morgan. He really is one of the most well-written characters in the video game. Rockstar Games has always been so good at character development. Even Trevor Phillips, who I will be talking about a lot once I start the GTA 5 tier list series, has so much more to him than just a crazy redneck, which is what people know him and love him as.
Matter of fact, I just did, just 10 minutes ago. Yeah, I saw her on the end of this penis here.
Anyway, I could talk about this for a long time, but I won't for obvious reasons. They then come across an old abandoned church with nobody in sight, until a wagon carrying dynamite rides past, which Arthur and Lenny quickly realize is headed towards Shady. They follow it and come across the house, careful not to be seen. After taking cover, Arthur looks through his sniper and sees a fuckload of dynamite surrounding the house, which is a genius plan on their end. It's not like it takes one bullet to kill every single one of those motherfuckers.
We can hit them head on, fight them honest. Or you could go down there acting friendly.
Well, that might be the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
Lenny walks toward the house on his own, preaching forgiveness as he went. Wait. I get it. Lenny is staring death in the face, but they're staring the opposite direction from death as Arthur shoots the dynamite with a sniper rifle, causing a big shootout. They apparently have a Gatling gun on the top of the balcony of the house, which Arthur quickly takes care of. Once Arthur and Lenny are the last men standing, they grab a wagon full of dynamite and weapons, and quickly leave before more trouble arrives. Unfortunately, they meet some nice fellows on the way back who are confused to why a black dude and a hot cowboy are coming back from Shady. Arthur tries to keep it friendly by saying they were doing some business with the dead people, but these guys have grinded being assholes and decide not to believe Arthur and Lenny, calling them Yankees, which makes Lenny snap.
Get these
After actually taking them out, they go back to camp. Arthur compliments Lenny, saying he did good, which is true. Lenny says that it feels good to bring a bunch of valuable items, saying that Sean has done so much for the camp, to which Arthur responds by saying that Sean needs to shut the fuck up sometimes, and Lenny's like, hey, I like him, and Arthur goes, yeah, me too, I guess, I don't know, I'm just too cool. Arthur mentions that Sean wasn't very helpful at Coulter, probably because he was held hostage by bounty hunters at Blackwater, and then he says that he had to go rescue him from bounty hunters at Blackwater. Life is hard. He then says to Lenny that he and Dutch have noticed the things people do for the camp, and tells Lenny to keep it up because he has a lot of potential. They make it back to camp, and Arthur decides to keep one of the guns.
Hey, I always enjoy riding with you, kid.
I fucking love Arthur and Lenny. Easily my favorite duo so far, but that might change. This is a great mission. I always enjoy myself more than usual when I play this mission. Something about Arthur and Lenny just clicks, and it's intriguing. I love the conversations they have throughout the mission. Not to mention the gunfight was pretty awesome. This mission gets an A tier.
What now? You sweating yet, Dutch?
Of course I'm sweating. We're in some disease-ridden, swampy, Dixie-whistling shithole.
Dutch, that is a very different attitude than when you guys first arrived here.
I don't know where the hell we are, but we are going to make the best of it.
We got the day. It's nice out. Kinda like this place.
Taters got burned and so did I.
But I mean, we're gonna be okay.
Well, I am going to take in the view.
Anyway, magicians for sport. Trelawney mentioned bounty hunters in the first mission of the chapter, and Dutch is getting a little worried about it, so he sends Arthur and Charles to get more information. Charles agrees instantly because he's one of the best characters in the game, and they ride away. Arthur gives Charles some more information on the information that they need to get from the guy who gives the information about the guy who gives information.
Funny. I've only met him a couple times, but he's He's a strange one.
They then talk about Trelawney, who Arthur describes him as a cockroach and fancy bitches. Sorry, I mean britches. They arrive at his house to see no Trelawney.
By the looks of things, it wasn't a social call.
They take a look inside, only to find some interesting clues.
This food's barely touched. Looks like he left in a hurry. Bed's not made, so he must have been here recently. There's some blood here. That ain't good.
They immediately leave in search of him.
Not yet. Look. Track. What is this?
Luckily, Charles has the eyes of a sad man at a strip club. Probably could have used a better thing to reference. Charles has the eyes of an eagle, so he and Arthur are able to track some horses pretty easily. They come across some fine gentlemen and ask them some questions.
You seen a strange sort of feller? Sort of formal?
Strange? Sure. Formal? Nah.
He uses a cane. Looks a lot like this one.
Yeah. All right, you two.
The men get up after Charles confirms that Trelawney has been here and try to scare them off. It doesn't work. Arthur interrogates the bounty hunter and gets some valuable information. Trelawney is, according to the bounty hunter, at a cornfield near Braithwaite Manor. Arthur lets him go.
Hey, I think there's a way around so we don't have to go through the Braithwaite's place. Hey! So we don't have to... Why are you riding like that?
On the way there, Arthur has fun with his horse, and they talk about the same old shit. They arrive at a house at perfect timing, with the bounty hunters dragging Trelawney out of the house, tied up and not looking his best.
Down, gentlemen.
The bounty hunters run off, leaving Trelawney on the ground, who they quickly help get up. Trelawney tells Arthur to go get the bounty hunters, and Arthur listens, because he really does not feel like helping Trelawney. They run into the cornfields, making this one of the most confusing missions in the game. Most of it is just running around plants with no visibility. It's like Australia. Arthur finds one of the bounty hunters, and puts a bullet through his two chins. After another 10 years of running, the second bounty hunter starts chasing Arthur, which they quickly take care of. Wait, there's another one? I thought it was only 2. They find the third bounty hunter's gear, meaning he isn't far away at all, which he wasn't. The bounty hunter wraps a rope around Arthur's neck when Charles runs over. The bounty hunter points a gun at Charles, telling him to leave, and then tries to bribe him.
He's not your friend. I'll give you money.
Be quiet. Come on.
You should have taken the money.
Arthur thanks Charles when they hear more gunshots coming from the barn.
Gunshots are...
Arthur runs into the barn, and I got a sick photo from it. You also get a legendary sniper rifle if you go to the top of the barn.
Sure, no.
They quickly return to Trelawney, and he's looking great. Trelawney says all he told the bounty hunters, who weren't even looking for Trelawney in the first place, if you know what I mean, is that he was a dude from Oregon looking for a job at a university, but obviously they didn't believe him. He then says he should stay with the gang for a bit, which they agree to. Charles takes Trelawney back to camp, and that's the end of the mission. This mission wasn't bad. It wasn't anything compared to the previous ones, but I still feel like it's a fun mission with some interesting things attached to it, like the cornfield. I'm giving this a B tier. Alright, look, before we go any further, there's something that I need to discuss. It's time to talk about the elephant in the room. My fucking voice. I've been mumbling a lot, and my pronunciation is pretty shit, which, yeah, I'm sorry about that. Mainly it's because, like, you know, I live with other people and stuff, so I can't really, like, you know, like, I can, but I, you know, choose not to for some reason. To, like, fully express myself within my voice, so, and I often record, this stuff a little late, so... It's usually just me mumbling, and I was listening to it, and I was cringing so hard I fucking hate it. So yeah, I'm sorry if that bothered you, because it definitely bothered me. But if you even made it to this far, I truly appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video, because these next couple missions are fucking crazy. Also, I'm not stopping here. I am also covering chapter 4 and then chapter 5 and chapter 6, which I'm obviously pretty excited about. Yeah, stick around. If you want. I'm not gonna put a gun to your head. Anyway, back to the video.
There always seems to be more and more civilization. I want to get back in the open country of the West, or what's left of it, but well, even that ain't the way I remember it.
We got something cooking you might be interested in.
Am I gonna like the sound of this?
Sodom? Back to Gomorrah. I hope I pronounced that right. Bill and Karen pitch Arthur an idea that apparently has been in the works since they were in Horseshoe Overlook. The idea is a bank robbery at Valentine, which is the last thing the gang needs to get involved with, which Bill recognizes, but then blames Arthur for the chaos they recently caused in Valentine, which to be honest, it wasn't his fault. It was fucking Mr. Korn's fault.
My name is Korn!
Bill blames Arthur because they were planning on robbing the Valentine bank, but couldn't because Leviticus Korn had to be an asshole and almost killed John, which caused a big fight, which caused the gang to leave camp, blah 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 blah. The point is, I can see both sides, you know? Anyway, Arthur retaliates, saying it was one of those things. Yeah, I may have killed a bunch of lawmen in a nice town, but you know, it was a silly thing for the memes. Yeah? Bill retaliates back, saying Arthur always gets higher authority, and that when Bill messes up, it's a whole thing. But when Arthur messes up, it's just one of them things, which Arthur takes responsibility for, sort of.
Alright, well, what do y'all want me to do?
Even Lenny sides with Bill on this one, which probably broke Arthur's heart so much he couldn't ever regain the same mental capacity he had. Karen tells him to rob a bank with them, and to stop being a loser, to which Arthur agrees. They change clothes and make their way to the horses when Leopold Strauss stops Arthur and mentions a very, very important name.
The debtor? Thomas Downs? Apparently he's dead.
He informs Arthur that the dude that was already on the brink of death due to sickness, who Arthur beat up for this old fucker, is dead, which Arthur shows 100% compassion for.
Dead? Huh. Well, he didn't seem very well.
Strauss tells Arthur to go collect the debt from his family, since he didn't get it when he turned Thomas into a fucking punching bag with a disease. That's just... Fuck you, Strauss! You fucking... Strauss is a piece of shit. He lends money to people who he knows won't be able to pay back without a heavy punishment, and then he sends one of his boy toys over to beat the living shit out of them so Strauss can be a happy little bitch. Coward! Anyway, they start the journey to Valentine. They say the plan is that Karen will go in as a distraction, which to be honest, I feel that's a little unnecessary. And then they're just gonna start shooting and robbing. What could go wrong? Bill then changes the topic to something a little interesting.
Oh, and did Dutch tell you I've also been cooking up some deals with them Gray boys? What? No.
Bill then points out the fact that he's putting out the same amount of work as him, which nobody said anything about ever, so he's crying for literally no reason. Then he finally informs Arthur that the Grays are looking for some extra security after a certain event occurred, which Arthur has no clue what he's talking about. Not at all. Arthur tells Bill to just be cautious about it, to which Bill responds like a sassy teenage boy.
Yes, I know, Morgan.
The journey is actually a little long, so here's something relatively entertaining.
Wait till I tell Dutch about this.
Now?
That don't go well.
Arthur starts having second thoughts about the robbery after remembering all of the things they did to Mr. Korn, so he takes it out on a random stranger.
How'd you do?
I've had better days, that's for sure.
Damn, sorry to hear it.
But I look at you and I know things can always be worse.
Now, is that any way to talk? Hey, mister.
Do without this rain. Do without this rain. Do without you, too.
Once arrived outside the bank, Karen practices her lost girl routine, which the guys are amused by. She then walks in and does the deed.
I don't want to go back to the workhouse. Get your goddamn hands up! Go. This is a goddamn robbery!
They walk in the bank and start hitting people. They point their guns at the bank dude and start yelling at him to open the safe. He starts opening it, but Arthur is a little pissed off with how slow he's moving, so he makes it even slower by smashing his face with a revolver. The bank man finally gets it open, and Arthur barges in, looting everything he can, and then placing dynamite on the smaller safes that actually contain the cash. For some reason, the dynamite takes like an hour to blow up, so I'm gonna make you sit through this and watch the dynamite fuses shorten with me.
I'll go check the front.
Thanks. Arthur loots everything he can once again until the law turns up, and something unexpected happens. And something unexpected happens.
Don't shoot! Don't shoot him! I made a terrible mistake.
Karen walks out of the bank, giving herself up to the law. She gets arrested, and they execute Arthur, Bill, and Lenny on the spot, ending the game.
Sorry.
Another gunfight takes place right back in Valentine.
Right behind you.
We're shooting our way out of here, boys!
After they kill almost every lawman, they get on their horses and ride off. But there's more lawmen outside of Valentine, so they quickly murder the people trying to protect the world, and lose the rest by quickly making it through train tracks before the train blocks the vision from the law.
That was
Stupid and dangerous. Thank you, Bill.
We're alive and we're paid.
Yeah.
I don't see the problem.
Yeah, and that is the problem.
The gang celebrates. It turns out Bill was right, and this is a great take, and pretty much nothing at all went wrong. Good old Bill. I just realized this now. That Bill's last name is Williamson, but people whose name is Bill usually have the legal name William. Holy shit! William Williamson. Hell nah. Arthur says that Dutch will be happy, and that he had fun being a dick to Valentine, and the rest go back to camp, leaving Arthur behind, ending the mission. Just kidding. Arthur still has to suck Strauss's dick and be a dick to a family with only one dick in the house now.
My husband's not cold in the ground, and you've come back here.
Mrs. Downs has her son, Archie, go get the rest of the debt from inside the house. Arthur points out the fact that Mr. Downs knew the rules when he took the money, and that he did have a choice. To which Mrs. Downs argues the statement, saying he didn't have a choice.
He was good, and he did good. There wasn't no choice in that. And you've as good as killed him yourself, and don't kid yourself. You had a choice.
Archie comes out of the house, giving Arthur a dirty look, which Arthur can't seem to get a grip on the reason why. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's because you beat the fuck out of his dying father? There's a theory. Archie fearlessly comes forward, saying he has zero respect for Arthur, which is fair.
Well, maybe when your mother's finished mourning your father, I'll keep her in black, on your behalf. You think on that, boy?
Well, maybe you shall, sir. And maybe other events will transpire.
You best stick to them books, because mark my words on this. Vengeance is an idiot's game.
I love the dialogue between the three, specifically the way they're all speaking to each other. It just feels like an uncountable amount of emotions is shown in the way everyone speaks. You can tell Arthur feels bad, but he can't show it yet. You can tell Archie is afraid, but he also seems so brave. I don't know, it just feels like a bunch of things that I don't have the right words for because I'm an idiot. But I like this cutscene, that's all. Arthur collects the money and leaves. There's something I never mentioned about the Mr. Downs mission back in Chapter 2, and it's because I was being mysterious and saving it for something special. Okay, fine. I didn't know until after the video was already uploaded. I'm sorry. I don't know the full lore of Red Dead 2, which I should. The point is that Thomas Downs actually has no effect on the rest of the story moving forward. Not even a little bit. This mission is 2 words. Great. That's only 1 word. It is truly a great mission. I feel like the bank robbery is a high A tier, but the Mrs. Downs part at the end bumps the mission to an S tier.
If I was 5 years younger, or $1,000 richer, well, I'd marry you. Make a dishonest woman of you, I would. Yeah. And that'd be the best decision I ever took.
You know,
you're a fine
this
woman.
camp ain't so bad.
Blessed are the peacemakers. Fuck, here we go. Micah opens his mouth for a second time, which makes Arthur want to talk to Molly instead. Arthur decides to think positive and say, "What's the worst that can happen to talking to Micah?" To which Micah responded by saying Arthur has limited intelligence.
You are a man of profoundly limited intelligence.
No doubt.
Micah actually says something interesting, and claims that while Arthur and Dutch have been making things worse for the camp, Pearson has been lightening the load, and I know he's not talking about his stomach. So I'm curious, if only he could lighten his weight. Arthur admits he's curious, which gets Dutch's attention, Pearson walks over to Dutch, telling him that Colm O'Driscoll, okay, already off to a bad start, wants to make a parlay to end things with Dutch.
You tell him, fat man. It's Get the words out properly, fat man. I met a couple that the fat words out fat properly, fat man, fat man, fat man. Met a couple that just go fat boys on the road in the fat town, and things were about to get ugly. But you know how I am, like a fat tiger. They suggested a parlay to end things like gentlemen.
Colm O'Driscoll.
Dutch is clearly against this, but Micah points out the fact that Dutch has always said, don't fight wars that ain't worth fighting. But Micah, this is a war worth fighting, you dumbass. Hosea randomly shows the gang his impression of that dude from Star Wars.
It's a trap. Well, of course, it's probably a trap, but what do we got to lose finding out?
Get shot.
After Arthur answers Micah's idiotic question, Micah says that Arthur could protect them using a sniper rifle from afar. Dutch does the reasonable thing and says fuck no. Micah is weirdly deep into this. It's almost like he's trying to sabotage the gang. Dutch then gives some backstory on him and Colm.
I killed Colm's
fat
brother. Long time ago. Then he killed
fat man.
I love deer.
As you say, it's a long fat time ago. Fat Dutch.
Dutch takes a moment to think, which I really don't see the reason for, since it's obvious he's going to say no to this
Let's
idiotic... Oh, okay. He agrees with Micah's plan involving Arthur protecting them, which can't possibly go wrong, right? They put this plan into action and get on their horses and leave camp. When Micah says something so interesting, it's impossible not to talk about, but I should probably save that for later, unless I forget to.
Here he goes, Doubting Thomas. Is there any plan you ain't sour on?
In the case in which I don't forget to. Anyway, they discuss the plan again, and Micah keeps mentioning how this is for the best, when his IQ is literally the same as a fucking coconut.
Oh, my dear and trusted friend, with you watching over me, I would walk into hell itself.
As would I.
Right.
Might be full of shit. The problem...
Billy thing will come to a head.
They arrive at the mountain, and they leave Arthur on the cliff with a rifle he will use to protect them. Arthur looks through the binoculars, only seeing Dutch, who by the way, looks fucking badass. Who cares if he looks like he's trying to take a shit while standing? It's cool! He then sees Colm with some other O'Driscolls. Colm gets off his horse and walks over to Dutch, creating this pretty suspenseful cutscene.
So, how's your gang doing? They still believing in you? Better world. Pure world. How's that coming along? How's that score you stole off us?
Which one?
Colm sounds like he really wants to end the feud. Colm says that he was offered a price to bring Dutch into the law, which sounds like something that Agent Milton would say. Colm claims that he's thinking about taking the offer, but to be honest, it just seems like a bluff. Dutch then tried to end the war once and for all.
I am sorry about your brother.
Yeah, well, I never liked him much.
I liked. What are we doing here, Colm? Is this thing over?
It's a trap. It's a trap.
Nope, it's not over yet. We never actually see what happens to Dutch and Colm, but what we do see is a very sad sight of Arthur getting tortured by O'Driscolls. Arthur wakes up, unable to stand up. He tries his best to get away, but he gets shot in the process, which by a miracle he survived, considering he was not... well, he opened his eyes again, staring at the water and the shadow of a horse, meaning he's in the process of being transported. The old dick souls take his weapons, and then he falls back asleep again. Time passes by, and he sees Colm walking down to the dungeon they have kept him in. Colm asks why he still hangs out with Dutch, and offers to hang out with him instead because he's cooler and richer. It's like a friendship argument at a private elementary school. Arthur tells him to suck his dick, but he ends up kicking his ribs instead. Colm confronts him about the 6-point cabin event, which Arthur denies. After pointing a gun at Arthur's beautiful face, Arthur tries convincing him to let him go and make peace with Dutch, to which Colm responds with the reason why he kidnapped Arthur to begin with.
They get him. They forget about me. We lure an angry Dutch in to rescue you. Grab all of you and hand you in. Then disappear.
So you only met with him to grab me?
Of course. And the law will be waiting for him. Arthur. Arthur, I missed you.
More time passes by, and Arthur is still not doing that well. So he makes himself better by trying to escape, which he partially succeeds by swinging on his chains to grab something to pick the the chain locks with. He then heats up the file and sticks it in his shoulder wound, which is a spot that can actually kill you. I've seen John Wick 3, okay? He twists and squashes it around to slightly heal the wound, and then pours some gunpowder in it, and then cauterizes it by shoving a candle in the wound. Holy shit. Then he somehow finds throwing knives, which he uses to kill some old bitches so he can acquire stolen weapons.
What's going on? God damn it! Ow.
He leaves, but there's still some surveillance outside, which he navigates around, and makes it as far as he can before...
Oh, come on, girl. Get me home.
He returns to camp and falls on the ground.
Arthur! Arthur?
Arthur! I told you it was a setup, Dutch.
Micah apologizes, which even Dutch doesn't accept. Arthur gets placed on a bed or a cot or something and is able to rest in peace. Okay, wait, let me rephrase that. I mean, actually, like, rest in peace. He's not dead. He will never die, ever. We then get some deer shots, which you can only get if you have high honor, but the deer shots are some of my favorite parts in the whole game. A few weeks pass by, and Arthur's... Arthur, we gotta trim your beard, man. Alright, look, I mean, come on. It's pretty self-explanatory. S tier.
Oh, finally back on your feet. All that crap you gave me after that wolf attack?
You goddamn degenerate.
Friends in very low places. That sums up Trelawney pretty much. Trelawney says that he knows he's a fucking weirdo, which he is not. He is beautiful. He's a beautiful man. He thinks he found something interesting, but interesting to him is probably taxes. So let's see what Boring McBoringson is up to now.
Yeah?
Have you ever robbed a stagecoach?
No, never. Who would have even thought?
Stupid! And we won't do anything unkind.
Of course I robbed a goddamn stagecoach. You know I have.
Trelawney actually brings up some interesting flaws to stagecoach robbery, which is strange, but apparently he has a solution. Trelawney says that he can introduce Arthur to a new best friend who provides great intel on stagecoach robbing.
So where do we find this friend of yours?
Roads!
Because what can possibly go wrong there?
This ages well. Trelawney then starts talking about a business he started a while ago, which, Trelawney, you literally got arrested for that at the beginning of this chapter. Are you on crack?
Look what the cat drug in.
Well, look who it is.
He then warns Arthur about getting involved with the Greys and the Braithwaites feud, which also ages well. Once they arrive, Trelawney says that he should do the talking, which means they're going to be there for 3 days.
Like I said, times are tough. My missus is a bad woman. Terrible woman.
They often are. But how's work, Alden?
Terrible.
This dude sounds like he's having a terrible time. Trelawney introduces Arthur after he makes Arthur pay Alden, then says he's one of us discouraged men. As Alden gives information about the stagecoach... What? As Alden gives the information about a stagecoach, Arthur looks intrigued.
Goodbye, Alden, or should I say, adieu?
Oh, adieu, Josiah.
What the hell was that?
They try to rob a stagecoach, but unfortunately, I thought it would be funny to attack Trelawney with my horse, which disrupted their process. Trelawney also tells Arthur to go to Strawberry once in a while to see the other guy that does this, but Arthur says no, since he had to rescue my Caucus-Mall from that one time. They arrive at the given location, where Arthur pulls out a weapon, which Trelawney is scared of. He tells Arthur to put it away, or he's telling, to which Arthur listens. Trelawney then gives him a lockpick to open locks because it's more civil. Then the stagecoach arrives. They follow it, maintaining their distance, except for Trelawney, because he's hoping to distract them with his singing. Trelawney and the stagecoach people talk about some boring adult stuff like the opera, while Arthur does something cool.
Who's this fella?
New York
It's a
audience.
trick. We're being robbed.
Arthur learns from his mistakes and tries again, when the audience gets some incredible dialogue between Trelawney and some random girl. When Arthur leaves, Trelawney asks for her card, because apparently he's pretending to be an opera singer and... Wait, where am I? Oh yeah. And then Trelawney asks for her card, because apparently he's pretending to be building an opera or something and trying to find singers, I think. I don't know, to be honest, but it's something like that. I'm sorry. It might be best just for you to research it quickly and tell me if I'm wrong. Arthur gives Trelawney all the credit for pulling this off, and then rewards him by giving him just enough for a Dairy Milk chocolate bar.
Oh, it's only good.
Trelawney tells Arthur to go see Alden sometimes, and leaves. But Arthur can't wait to talk to him more, so he goes up to him and asks him a question nearly 30 seconds after he last saw him.
Got any more opera singers for me to rob?
Wow, okay. Dude, I don't know what's wrong with my, speaking. I'm just not. All in all, this mission is pretty good. It introduces Alden and the stagecoach robberies, which I end up robbing from time to time in my videos. I'm going to give this mission a B tier. Arthur rides back to Rhodes to have a short walk in a pretty town with his friends. Oh no. I know it sounds innocent, but... ah, fuck. Remember when Bill told Arthur about the security job for the Greys?
What? No.
They're apparently confirming it at a meeting with the Greys at Rhodes, which is just as legit as you can picture it. The reason for this, according to Micah, is because of money and to stay on the Grey side of the feud. As the gang talks, Arthur listens, and everything seems less and less real as they talk about the Greys. Like they had some misunderstanding with the robbed horses? What are you talking about? You told us to do that! Dumbass. Also, the Greys think the Braithwaites were the ones that burned the tobacco fields, which definitely was. Arthur finally puts his foot down and says it doesn't feel right, when Sean, unfortunately, agrees with, putting him at the wrong place at the wrong time.
This don't feel right.
Now it don't feel right. I could have told you.
The town breaks into a shootout. The Greys versus the morons who fell for this obvious trap and paid the price. I'm sorry. I like that sound. Oh, I did it again. I'm sorry. During the gunfight, Micah double checks if Sean is dead, which should be a pretty easy question to answer.
She's dead! How could you not think this was a trap? They got us pinned in good.
Arthur and Micah enter the gunsmith, which is now a crime scene like the rest of the town.
Didn't leave nothing for me.
Micah then gets shot, which for some reason disrupted the mission, so we had to go back. Like, why? What's one more? The only enemies that remain are Sheriff Gray, who has Bill hostage in the sheriff's office. The same one where they got Sheriff Gray drunk and where he stumbled out of the building. That was pretty funny. Luckily, they're about to relive that moment.
This is the Greys town. Always has been, always will be.
The only remaining Greys walk out of the building, with Bill's life on the line.
I'll blow his brains out.
You want to join your little friend there, do you?
Either way, you're a dead man. Morgan?
Holy shit. Forget Arthur and Lenny. Arthur and Micah is the duo you should be afraid of. These two together in combat is one hell of a secret weapon. As much as I despise Micah, he's one awesome character, and pair him in combat with the greatest video game character ever made is a wet dream, dopamine, and a fucking nightmare. Even Micah's weapon skills, the moment where Sean died, was fucking awesome. The left, right, across, oh, over the arm, whoa! It's just so satisfying. Even in Chapter 2, Arthur and Micah were badasses together. Unfortunately, that doesn't last. Spoiler. All the Grays and Rhodes are dead, leaving the gang in the empty town of Rhodes with Sean's corpse.
He was a good kid.
Well, how the hell was I to know?
Bill tries to defend himself, but Mad Max Morgan here is a little mad, and Micah defends Bill, saying he was just trying to find a lead like the rest of the gang, which, to be completely honest with y'all, he's not wrong. I'm not saying he's right, but I'm not saying he's wrong.
All you do is complain when things don't work out. Except when it's your goddamn fault.
You don't know what you're talking about.
You can fight, but you can't think.
You can't do either.
Arthur tells Micah and Bill to bury Sean in a place that's necessary, and tells Micah that the two should keep their distance from each other for a while.
Pair of fools.
I don't exactly know where to start off with this mission, but first off, I will say, for such a short mission, it leaves a huge impact on the gang moving forward. With Sean dead, not only does the gang become more quiet, but the gang slowly becomes separated from one another. Shit, this mission is incredible, but it'll only get better from here. Also, there's something else I have to address. Keats, I know you're watching this. I know you probably already texted me saying, oh, you didn't do the thing, wah. Look, man, I couldn't say bazinga when Sean dies, okay? It just feels wrong. Don't get me wrong, I was all in on it when I heard the idea, but as I was writing the script for this, I was like, no, this mission is too important. But look, I know this won't be the same, but here.
Now it don't feel right. I could have told you.
Bazinga! There is nothing that will make this mission below an S tier, making it the last mission of the chapter to get an S tier. I'm not kidding, by the way.
He was like an annoying little brother to me. What fun we had riding together. What a goddamn mess we are making of things.
I know you know what mission is next, and I promise you, it will not disappoint or surprise you in any way when I rank it. Of course, the mission I'm talking about is... The first thing we hear when Arthur gets back to camp is Dutch telling everyone to be calm, and then Abigail calmly runs over to Arthur, claiming that
They took him, didn't they? They took my son!
Who took him?
We think the Braithwaite woman took him.
Abigail starts panicking, for a good reason.
We will find him, we will bring him back to you, and we will kill any fool that had the temerity to touch one hair on that boy's head. Abigail, you have my word.
Just get me back, my son!
I will get that boy back, so help me God.
Her son is Jack, by the way, if that wasn't clear enough. Yeah, this guy.
I drew you a picture. It's by your...
Thanks, kid.
Bill, Charles, and Lenny show up, saying they heard the news, and asks if they need Dutch's assistance.
Yeah, why not? Micah, Kieran, anyone strange turns up, you kill him. Rest of you, let's ride.
Hosea points out the obvious, saying the Braithwaites probably figured out that the gang was playing the feud from both sides, taking advantage of them, which is pretty obvious, considering that the Greys murdered a man in cold blood. Probably hot now since the weather was nice, but you know what I'm saying. Dutch then responds to Sean's death by not thinking about it, and they need to put their attention on finding Jack. John, who is Jack's Jack's father, that would have been weird, starts expressing his anger, when Dutch tells him to take a chill pill, which he does. Bill asks about the gold, which has actually been brought up in conversations involving Dutch's plan, but the Braithwaites and the Greys apparently have a bunch of gold that Dutch was planning on robbing. Hosea mentions that there was probably no gold to begin with, saying the gang has underestimated them, but Dutch says, fuck that, they underestimated us.
Enough talk. There is no point arguing how we got here. This is where we are, and we are going to fix it. So come on!
They arrive at Braithwaite Manor when everyone dismounts. Dutch then randomly complains about how they can't do this without Arthur when he is standing right next to him.
Arthur, we can't do this without you.
The gang walks toward the mansion all in a line, sort of. That looks fucking sick. The first time I played this and saw Dutch in the middle of everyone, I was just like, holy shit. It was an experience.
Get down here now, you inbred trash!
Dutch confronts P. Diddy, saying that stealing a 4-year-old is too far, to which the Braithwaite responds by being even more of a Karen, telling him to get off his lawn. There's a long pause as more Braithwaites rise out of the mansion, until Dutch makes a move.
If you ain't gonna be civilized about this...
In one of the best shootouts in the game, the entire gang unloads a fat chunk of bullets into the Braithwaites, and then barges into the house when everyone outside is dead.
Get in there! Find Jack! And find that Braithwaite woman!
They look for Jack, but end up finding Braithwaites in the process, which they take care of.
Jack? Oh,
There's a panic upstairs from Dutch, saying they need Arthur's help. So Arthur walks very slowly up the stairs and helps them out. Dutch and Hosea try to get the locked door open when more Braithwaites arrive at the crime scene outside. Arthur and John tried to get in the door from outside, but it's also blocked with no inside vision. They eventually make it inside, resulting in one of the coolest kill cams I've gotten. Hosea and Dutch make it inside, but no Jack to be found anywhere in the house, so they decide to burn it, but not after double checking with Kathy to make sure Jack was not in here. They confront Kathy and ask her where Jack is, and she responds by giving the gang a little family history, which Hosea is not having.
We never had no problems except for
Where
Yankees.
is the boy?
It just seems like a few missions ago where Hosea was drinking tea and playing cribbage with Kathy, and now he's a little less friendly, but I'll get more into that in a minute.
You killed my son!
Oh, and I will surely kill the rest of them unless you start talking.
Oh, I know your type. Common scum.
Where is the boy?
Dutch is terrifying this mission. Kathy still doesn't respond, so they start dragging her out of the mansion after Dutch shoots one of the dead Braithwaites, which really triggers Catherine, making it feel real for her. Yes, I did not call her Kathy. This is simply not the time. There's a time and place, and this is not the time. This is serious.
What about down?
Any more of her sons to deal with?
No, reckon they're all dead.
There is something about crying that adds so much more attention to the situation, but when the situation is this, you don't know what to feel. You know what you know what feeling I'm talking about here. That feeling. Chills. Speaking of chills, it's about to get a whole lot less chilly in here. Arthur walks down the house with the walls burning around them, destroying Braithwaite Manor at this very moment. A random dude on fire walked through the room, so naturally Arthur threw a fire bottle at him because he thought he might be cold. But for some reason, Dutch started dragging Kathy through the fire, resulting in her death and his own, which interrupted the mission, but at least we know who Rockstar Games likes more. Arthur learns this lesson, and instead of adding more fire, he just blew his head off. John and Hosea walk through, holding torches and looking cool as fuck.
I guess that's the end of the goddamn cribbage game.
Hosea mentions the cribbage game being over, which I think is such hilarious and brilliant writing, since every single one of Hosea and Kathy's interactions have involved cribbage in this house specifically. It's so amazing to throw that in there one last time as the house is being burnt to a crisp. Arthur looks back to see Dutch being a psychopath and horrifyingly dragging Catherine through the burning house. He then picks her up and starts walking. What the fuck? He throws her on the ground in the center of the gang, guns drawn, tension rising. Hosea asks why she took Jack, to which Catherine responds by repeating all of the theft and all the other crimes that the gang made against her and her family, referring to this act as payback. Hosea asks one more time, and Catherine actually responds, saying her sons, before they were alive and healthy and not a pile of meat, take the L, you bitch, gave them to a man called Angelo Bronte.
So my guess is Saint Denis.
So, Saint Denis. It's not Saint Denis, it's Saint Denis. But looking at the script, I'm just reading it too, like, of the same thing, saying it's not this and it is this. Immediately after this, the gang leaves Catherine behind, forcing her to stare at the consequences of her actions. She gets up and runs into her burning house, ending her life and ending the Braithwaites as a whole. Holy shit. This is art. I kind of love the end part. Even Hosea's little "I told you she was crazy" off screen, while it's just a shot of her sprinting to burn herself alive, is so fucking good, man.
Leave her. I told you she was crazy.
The entire chapter felt like a build up to this moment, and my god, was it worth the hours and hours of playthrough. I can easily see why this is ranked the best mission in Red Dead 2. It's definitely up there for me. It might even end up being my all-time favorite after I finish the series. I stated this mission won't be getting an S tier, and I stand by that. In a bunch of other tier lists I've seen online, I've seen a lot of double S tiers and even triple S tiers, but I'm gonna be unique and do the exact same thing, but turn it into a W tier. I know it doesn't sound as cool, but I gotta stand out a little, come on. Anyway, I think I've made it pretty clear, this mission gets a W tier, and it so easily deserves it.
It's gonna work out, John.
Okay, so after that, the Battle of Shady. The gang is at the camp, trying to figure out the Jack situation and comforting John in the process.
What do you think, Arthur?
The boy will be fine. But, well, of course Marston's scared rotten. I mean, we killed all those people. We stirred up all that trouble. For nothing.
No, not for nothing.
They then hear Lenny's voice calling behind them, saying, "We got a problem," which they definitely do.
Not a problem. Visitors.
Agent Dickhead is back with his dickhead, Agent Dickface. John then introduces himself, becoming a well-known meme in the Red Dead community.
Rip Van Winkle.
Huh.
Dutch asks what the fuck he's doing here, to which Milton responds with, "This is a civilized land now." Which just, it's civilized? But his son was kidnapped. And do you know what I saw the other day?
This place ain't no such thing as civilized. It's man, so in love with greed, he has forgotten himself and found only appetites.
Dutch defines himself as a seeker, which Milton responds by saying that he's just a killer, which you can tell hits a nerve on Dutch. Milton proposes his offer to the rest of the gang, saying he'll give everyone 3 days to run for free if they turn Dutch in right then and there.
I don't want to kill all these folk, Dutch. Just you.
In that case, it'll be my honor to join you. Excuse me, friends. I have an appointment to keep with...
The gang raises their weapons toward Agent Milton, which he's weirdly so baffled by. He didn't think they were actually going to accept his offer, did he?
Stop following us. We'll be gone soon.
I'm afraid I can't. And when I return, I'll be with 50 men. All of you will die.
Milton tells everyone to run away, and then starts pouting as he leaves. Dutch starts taking ideas for a new camp, which Arthur has the perfect idea for.
Any ideas?
I know a big old house. There's a spot out by Shady.
Dutch tells him and Rip Van Winkle to go check out the spot, which they do. Rip Van Winkle says that Jack should be their main priority, to which Arthur responds by saying they need to be smart, when Rip Van Winkle easily retaliates, saying nothing about Dutch and Hosea getting involved with the two families was smart, and that they're risking too much for money.
It's Dutch playing his games. Hosea, too.
Arthur responds to this by saying shit happens, when Rip Van Winkle starts listing out the dead people.
We can't change what's done. We can only move on.
Arthur then says that he can't put everything on Dutch because he's reasonably angry.
You, me, Dutch, Hosea. It's been a long time now.
All right. Should be just down this path to the left here.
They arrive at Shady, where the place looks empty, but it's not.
Oh, shit! It's them again! Boys! Get ready! Get out of here!
Someone that was in a very well-hidden spot got his head displaced, and Arthur runs upstairs to see if anyone else is there.
You think there's more of them? I'll check the house. You keep watch out here.
Arthur kicks down a locked door, where there's the leader, apparently, lying on the bed and giving some main character monologue until he eventually kills himself.
The army of criminals who stole our land and our government. I survived them all.
Didn't you get the message last time?
There's one more dude that Arthur has to take care of, though.
Come out with your hands up!
Great.
How's it looking up there?
I think that's a lot. Didn't even have to shoot the last one.
No, Arthur, you didn't. Actually, you really only shot like 2 people, because one of them you punched, and the other one did your job for you, and then the other one you got creative, almost killing yourself in the process. Arthur and Rip Van Winkle dispose of the bodies into the swamp, just outside, when Arthur tells him to go get the gang while he deals with the rest. Later, the gang arrives.
Welcome home, all of you, to my humble abode.
Dutch asks Arthur to take a ride with him, and then rejects sex with Molly and rides off with Arthur. They're going to see what this Saint Denis is all about once and for all.
I need you to start asking around in the city for Bronte. Subtly, of course. Public places, maybe start with the saloons. I think we need to move a little further. Put some ocean between us and all of this. The mess with those 2 families, losing Sean. I see things differently now. For a long time, I truly believed a paradise lay somewhere in the West for us. But I just don't know anymore.
So we're leaving the country now?
Maybe. I'm still thinking about it. Okay, there she is. A real city. The future.
Big cities. They're
always repellent.
Exactly.
I'll find you in there. Go see what you can figure out.
Yes.
Dutch tells Arthur to go figure out what he can, while the 2 split up, ending the mission and the entire chapter. This mission alone is a B tier, but mainly what I want to talk about is the end of the chapter. As you saw, the chapter ends with Arthur and Dutch riding into Saint Denis for the first time, which I honestly think is perfect, because Saint Denis also has some effects on the gang that doesn't fully display until the next chapter. I forgot how good this chapter was, with a lot of very memorable missions. I don't have too much to say, just thanks for watching. I'm sorry if my voice was unbearable sometimes, which I promise will change throughout the series. I have to get to work on the chapter 4 video, so thanks so much, and I hope you enjoyed it. Laters!